Good morning, everybody. It's top of the hour here, and thanks for joining us. I'm going to wait a minute or two here for people to kind of shuffle into the room. It takes a second for people once they log in to be active. So, all right, we're going to give everybody just a little bit of time here. I'm getting emails here from people wanting the link. I guess they lost the link. So, um, okay, I'm going to get started. There's respect your time. Everyone will get a email after the event with a copy of the link to the recording. So you have any questions, of course, or don't get the link, please just shoot me an email and we'll go ahead and send that out to you. So today we're going to talk about how systems can improve your business and help you survive and thrive. Playing with my presentation skills. There you go, rolling in. So that's a little bit about me. And first, I think we're going to go through minor updates to the PPP and stimulus news. There's not a whole lot really new. And then we're going to talk about the importance of defined systems. We're going to look at a customer collection system, which will definitely improve your cash flow, and that example in case study, and give you some ideas as to how these things really work and why they're so important for your business. And we'll discuss and then share with you our system for handling collections. So there should be I've shared a file called sample collections policy that should be available to you in your on screen somewhere. So feel free to download that. If you can't find it, again, shoot me an email and I'll be sure to share that with you. Okay, on to the PPP and stimulus. No major news this week. They continue to tweak their FAQs and guidance a little bit. Really, the only thing that we kind of found out this week is that they're gonna cap owners' compensation forgiveness to, for basically 8 weeks of what you paid yourself in 2019. So if you've increased your pay to try to use up more of your PPP loan, that might not work. Again, we haven't seen anything new on how they plan to calculate that. Also, kind of my last point here is Congress is still considering making changes. The reality is most of the people that we have that are received the PPP loans did so roughly a month ago. Beginning of May is where we saw the largest amount of people getting those loans. So we're already about 4 weeks into this process, and if they go ahead and make those changes, we may have 3 or 4 weeks left to adjust our plan to those new rules. So we're going to have to wait and see. I unfortunately, it's highly probable that it'll be too late, and we'll have to see what we can do to adjust. But we make our plans based on the rules at the time and what we know, and if they continue to do this stuff to us, it's unfortunate, but there's really not a whole lot we can do other than just adjust when we find out new information. So standard operating procedures. What are systems and standard operating procedures? This is basically your business command and control rules. These are the things that every business generally has in place. They're just not always very well documented. They're how your business does everything you do. They vary by company and specific to each company, and they should be reasonably specific. And what I mean by that is, how specific do you think you really need to be? Should they allow for some professional judgment? How detailed do you need to get? And I think that's to each business's decision on how detailed they want to get. Some systems, like most of the franchise, a good example of that would be McDonald's. They're very, very specific, and they want pretty much anybody to be able to walk in with a minimal amount of training and be able to look at the procedures and follow them to make everything the same as the last time someone else made it. So in our business, most of our procedures are to the level of realizing that we've got certified accountants that are doing things that I don't need to get into every instance. They're supposed to know the rules, and I might have when it comes to work product, I might have a procedure that indicates how I want something done, but I expect them to understand the law, and that's why we hire those folks. Most procedures we find are usually not documented in the owner's head, which is not a good place for them to be. And these things should cover all major business functions, sales, collections, accounts payable, customer service, employment, accounts receivable and collections, operations, and pretty much anything else that you want to make sure is well documented in your business. So, I often say when discussing these with clients that we're working on procedures with, we say, look, from the time you get an initial call from your customer until the time that the job is done and you've been paid, and potentially beyond that in customer service or in front of that for sales and marketing, what is the process? How does it happen? And how do you, the business owner, want it done? And if these are clear, concise, specific, and easily understood, anybody can pick it up and do the task. And we also will see that we have sub procedures if needed. So as I've shared, and we'll you'll be able to look at our procedure for collections. We don't get into the bank deposit aspect of our procedure other than saying it's supposed to happen every day. So we do have some sub procedures for stuff like bank deposits, because we use a system that integrates with our QuickBooks, and it is a scanner provided by the bank, and there is a login and password. So it's not just take the checks to the bank. There's some know-how that we want to make sure is well documented. So if somebody changes in that position, we can look to that procedure and find out how we're supposed to do the thing we're looking to do. So we've got benefits of systems and procedures. They retain company knowledge, and by that I mean if you've got, I get a great example. Once upon a time, there were things that I used to do that I no longer do, and I pass that knowledge on to somebody else, and if it doesn't get written down 2 years later, I may not remember how to do the thing that we were doing. I may not remember how to go into the the scanner settings and be able to scan those checks in for deposit if I don't do it every day. So you want to retain company knowledge, and sometimes it's administrative knowledge, but sometimes it's specific knowledge relating to how you do things, how you deal with customers, or what specific you may repair things, and you have a checklist, okay, which is a system, and that you want to make sure that everybody does it the same way, and they start at the top and they work their way through the bottom. So these things retain company knowledge, so that if there's a change, that it's easy enough for the next person to pick it up and take over. They take the guesswork out of things, and you don't want people guessing on how you want things done. You want it to be very clear how they want things done. Easier to transfer that know-how, and then it's also easier to identify when someone isn't doing their job correctly. If you've got rules that say you're supposed to do this, and it's well documented and well communicated and everybody understands it, when someone's not following the rules, it should stick out, and you should be able to call them on that. Systems and standard operating procedures, must be documented. We see, it can be written, it can be part of some kind of a manual, they can be, just pages. We keep ours in our company directory, where we can go pull those up, and we've, in training of new people, we print them out and give them the appropriate procedures to those folks and say, here, learn these, because this is important. This is how we want it done. I want to tell a quick story. Obviously we see problems with systems and procedures all the time, and we had a client who was having some trouble. We identified, in looking at their accounting, that we thought they really weren't making enough money, and we called them in to have a conversation about what was going on, and we found out that they weren't. The owner wasn't really paying attention to the back office stuff. He was, in his mind, not an accountant. It wasn't his job. Problem was, the accounts receivable number had gotten out of hand, and it was a really large number. And I pointed out to him that was, money that he was owed. He had done the work, he had issued the bills, he had paid his labor, he had paid the suppliers, and really it was all profit that was out there, and it was a six-figure number. And in questioning him about how his systems worked in the office, we determined that, well, here are some things that are supposed to happen. They're not really written. They're not really followed up on. They may or may not happen at all. And that meant that, they weren't getting done, and there was no way to follow through and make sure that it was happening. So, I mean, to reiterate here, command and control. This is there's some point in the day where a business owner needs to make sure he's looking out for the business and looking out for himself and looking out for his own wealth, and making sure that people are doing the business tasks the way he wants them done. And, one side note I'll point out is that, we often find owners who aren't signing the checks in their business, and that's a big no-no. You got to sign the checks. You get the bill, you get the check, you sign it, you look at it, and you understand a little bit more about what's going on in your business. You just can't offload that responsibility to somebody else. And I get pushback on that with, oh, I don't have time to do that. And I said, well, I'm not saying you have to prepare the checks and go into QuickBooks and enter the bills and write the checks. I'm saying you're the signer on the account. So, someone in your office is doing that for you, when they're giving you the check ready to be signed, and they're giving you the bill so you can look at them and make sure everything appears okay and have a better understanding of what's going on in your business. So, we want to make sure you're doing that. Okay, good. One of the examples that we wanted to kind of use here is a collection procedure, and again I shared the link of our collection procedure in the on the webinar page here. So you can go pull that up and look at that. But ours is, basically talks about invoicing, when things get invoiced, how they're collected, who's supposed to do the deposits on a daily basis. Again, we've got a sub, procedure on how to work that piece of technology that we do our scanning with. But it indicates the reason, in order to increase our cash flow and decrease our receivables and to avoid losses. When we do tax returns and they're invoiced at completion, and the fees should be collected at the time of delivery, and then it goes through what happens, how often we send out statements. We send those out once a month at the beginning of the month by the 5th day, and it's the office manager's responsibility to do that after she reconciles the accounts. Clients are without email should be mailed. There still are some people out there that don't have email addresses, believe it or not. At 30 days past due, statements get mailed. At 60 days, we're calling to find out what the problem is, and then go through what happens at 90 and 120 days as we become more and more agitated by people who might not have paid us. So, when you document a good collections procedure, and I was mentioning the client earlier, who found out that there was a drawer with bills that people owed them, invoices that were uncollected, and someone was supposed to go through that drawer every so often and call and see if they get paid. And we pointed out that the software they were using, you could click a couple of buttons and send out statements to all of those people via email anytime you wanted to. And we suggested at the very least every 30 days, and then to better create that system, to be able to keep track of that stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, for the business, accounts receivable is money that you've done the work, you're due the money, and you've probably paid your team and you've paid your suppliers, and it's the money you need to continue to collect in order to make it happen every day in the business. So a good collections procedure will document when those invoices are issued and by who. We suggest attempt collection at delivery, and then generate statements at least monthly. Also producing an AR or accounts receivable report monthly for the owner's review. And those last two things there, the generate statements and the accounts receivable report, I mean, those are just coming out of your accounting system, and someone just has to print them and provide them to the owner to review. And again, the owner needs to review the monthly accounts receivable report for what I would term team bias. And what that means is, now there's owner bias and there's team bias, and that's the people that you don't want to have to call and ask for money, or someone who maybe you shouldn't have allowed credit and they haven't paid, and maybe there's somebody on the accounting team who goofed up and they don't want to show you the accounts receivable report because that number is going to stick out. So you got to look at it and you need to see the number. And sometimes I look at ours and I'm astounded by the size of the number that we were owed, and that gets you to follow up to make sure that people are following the procedures and doing the things that they're supposed to do. Another part of ours is ensure direct contact for anyone who's over 60 days late, and this should not, in most cases, be the owner. The owner doesn't need to be the bad guy. There's people on the team who call and and who are responsible for calling and trying to collect. That's their job. It's part of it. Suspend credit or stop work for anybody who hasn't paid by 90 days, and that's 90 days past due. So if you gave them 30 days in the front end, now they haven't paid you in 120 days since they did the work, and that's just not acceptable. Excuse me. Make a team member responsible for making, accepting mail and making daily deposits. Division of job titles or division of responsibility is really a key to keep making sure that you're not getting having people steal from you. So, if one person's collecting the mail and someone else is making the deposits, or someone else is, reconciling the bank accounts or their accounts receivable, it's less likely that you're going to have yourself in a situation where someone's, stealing from you. A lot of times, most small businesses, don't have 4 or 5 people to break that job up, and that's fine. So it comes back to the owner, having some responsibility. So, watching the receivables report, watching your, keeping an eye on your bank statement, just a little bit of time, creates that, control, in the command and control system. Resolve errors and confirm accounts monthly. So, our process is to, reconcile the bank account the first of the month, and to, reconcile those deposits against our customer records, and then we send out statements. And if we're wrong, and it does happen, someone will call and say, hey, I paid that. And that way we're clearing stuff up and making sure that if something got posted wrong, and we have that a lot of times, someone will send us a company check to pay their personal tax bill, or vice versa, and or they have multiple companies, and it can get posted wrong. So this is a example of making sure that you come back to review this, and it's not the owner who's calling people collecting money. Best practices, this is all about getting it out of your head. And in a second, I'll tell you a story about this. It can be written. I've also seen people using video. They'll pull their phone out of their pocket and they'll create a video that says, here's how I want you to do this. And they save those videos all in one place, and that's their system. Or you do that, and then you hand it to somebody on your admin team and have them go write it down. Make sure it's very well communicated. So everybody needs to know that the systems exist, and everybody needs to know that they're accountable to making sure that it happens. Make sure everyone has access to it, knows where to go find it. If there's multiple, and there should be multiple, different procedures for different things, everybody needs to know where to find them so they can go look, if they need it. Monitor for compliance and revise as needed. So systems are going to change. Business practices change. For instance, we have a system for making deposits at the bank. Well, what if the bank changes the system? Or what if we change banks and now there's a different system? Or we change our credit card processor. There's a number of reasons why your system could change. So you need to change them for those reasons, but also be open to your team for ideas on how to make your business run better. And if someone has an idea that alters this system, then go ahead and make the change if it's better, or give it a try for a little while and see if it has better results, and then make the change. Lastly, give your team authority to fall back on the system. So we do that. We definitely do that here. We use a quiet time that's generally in the morning here, where we're excuse me, focused on projects that are coming due, and we're focused on client activities that we're trying to get accomplished today. And that means that we're not available for phone calls most of the time in the morning. And when people call and they want to schedule, they want to talk to someone, it's Stacy up front, it's her job to explain that I'm sorry, they're busy, I can schedule a call back for you. Well, this is a system, and every once in a while in our systems we have someone who wants to push the issue and expect some kind of a special arrangement so they don't have to listen to your system. So she's completely authorized to say, I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to do that, and I have rules, and this is the system that we have. So whether it's that, or whether it's in the collection procedures where she says, we send out statements, and every once in a while someone gets upset that we sent them a statement that they owe us money. And it's automatic. It happens. It just happens. It happens every month, and it happens to everybody. And I'm not picking and choosing and deciding that I'm going to send this person a statement. I'm not going to send this person a statement. It's automatic. I don't touch it. It's not in my control, but there's someone on our team who it's their responsibility, and they're supposed to make it happen. And we're not picking and choosing. It's just across the board. So we can help with these things. We see, a lot of systems. We see what's working and what's not. So I told you I was going to share you a little story about systems. So, this is the, when you see somebody who's saying, oh yeah, I know, we've got systems, and I said, so I'm listening to this business owner go on and tell me that he's having some people problems, and he's having problems with this person who's supposed to be doing this job when with this other person who's supposed to be doing another job, and they're arguing over who's responsible for doing a certain task. And then he's complaining that there's other tasks that aren't being completed because no one will take ownership of them. And my question to him was, what are your systems? Do you have systems? And he's going, yeah, no, everybody knows what they're supposed to do. And I said, well, doesn't sound like everybody knows what they're supposed to do if they're arguing over the tasks. So we went in and went through his business, and we went into his office and we did some interviews with his team, and we came back and designed standard operating procedures and systems for everything from the time the phone rings to when the customer's job is completed and you've been paid. And I will say that that was a big help. There was some pushback. There was also, I think, further need for accountability, and there's going to be pushback when you start changing procedures and you make changes in your business. Some people are going to argue about it. And in this case, I think the thing we probably could have done better on our end was to include a lot more of the follow through. And if we can help with accountability, we're good for that. Blame it on the accountant. We're good for that with your team. Well, gee, my accountant says that we have to do it this way. Is good. And if you need our help in putting those things together, or you need us to be your accountability, or to come in and go over this type of thing with your team, that's what we did for this company. We went in, and after designing them, we went in and we rolled them out to the team. We went one by one through the procedures that we had. We explained to the team who was responsible for the different things what their new procedures were and how they were supposed to do things, and that this is now your job, and here is how you're supposed to do it. So excuse me. So that's really the best practices, and I can't stress enough how in a second here we're going to talk about value again, but a business that has strong processes and procedures, that doesn't rely on these processes and procedures that are in the head of the owner or the manager, and is a business that's a lot more valuable to a buyer when you're ready to exit and cash out on your business than one is where it's still relying on one person who knows all the answers and thinks everybody needs to know what they're supposed to do because that's how we've done it. But new person comes in and they don't know, and all of a sudden those years of best practices or systems is lost to that. So make sure you document your systems. And again, we provided a file here that has our sample, and it doesn't have to be fancy. It just needs to be clear enough that everybody can understand it. So I've mentioned this in prior webinars. We have a tool that we've used to measure against the 8 key drivers of business value. It provides a score and an estimate of value based on size and profits. So and if you don't have any profits, it's not going to give you much of a value. We use this with our advisory clients to help improve their business. And it's really designed to identify stuff like these systems where we can increase profit and help a business grow in value by making it less dependent on the owner. And of course, we're offering this while we're doing these webinars for no cost to folks on this. It should take about 20 minutes to fill out that assessment, and you'll receive a score pretty quickly and a quick report. And then there's no cost or obligation to kind of look through that. And then, again, if you have any questions, please give us a call. Let me just see if we've got any questions. You got anything you want to add here to the chat field? Okay, well, hopefully there was someone who wasn't able to hear us. Hopefully she's been able to resolve the sound problem. But if I don't have any other, one of the questions we hear a lot about systems, I'll just kind of throw one out of my own, is it sounds complicated to put this stuff together. I don't really know, how to go about it. Well, I think you start small, and you start with critical systems like your collection system, or your payable system. How do you collect your money? What are the steps for that? How do you pay your bills? What are the steps for that? And start there, because those are two fairly easy systems. And a lot of times what I've seen when there's someone in the office or in the business that's responsible for doing something like that, get them to write it up. Say, write down exactly what you do step by step for, in your job to do this thing, and let them write that down, and then look at it and say, can I simplify this? Can I make this a little easier, or do I need a little bit more detail? So go to the people who are doing the job, let them kind of document it. As the owner, you can kind of review it and decide, hey, I want to change this. I don't like how that's going. We've got a procedure on deposits. I want deposits done daily, and if deposits aren't done daily, I get upset. The money came in, get it to the bank, and that's a standard operating procedure here. It's got to happen. It needs to happen every day, and I want to make sure that it's done that way. So I don't see any other questions, but thank you for attending. I hope you found some value in our conversation about systems. And again, if you've got any questions, there's our contact information. Give us a call, shoot us an email. We're happy you were here today, and you all have a great day. Thank you.